It's hot, fellas. I'm just now getting out here. I'm walking about half a mile in. Just doing a little summertime scouting. I hadn't been in this spot. I looked back before I left the house. I think 2012 was the last time I came out here. I was wanting to come in the evening, but it's been raining every evening, so I didn't want to have the cameras out here in the rain, so I'm out here in the middle of the day. And basically what I got is what hopefully is still an overlooked spot. It sure used to be, but there had been a few guys that started hunting it back when I quit, and that's kind of why I quit, because the big bucks just wasn't hanging out here like they used to be. But this is where I saw one of the biggest bucks I ever seen alive, or dead for that matter, in my life. And I had his shed one year. It was like only found one side, but it was like just 80 inches of bone, double drop tine, one of them sure enough giants. But this the river is back over here, probably a mile, 1.2, so I'm in the floodplain basically. But this section over here is it's still state land, but it's closed to hunting. So I'm kind of walking the boundary that's closed right this second. And I'm gonna get in here and check. I don't have any kind of pins for this place, because back when I used to come in here, I had hunt stand or something, and now I use Onyx, so I didn't transfer any of my pins over, but I got a pretty good memory of how the bucks used it, so I got a couple places I'm gonna go check. Got a few doe tracks. I don't see any buck tracks on it. It rained last night, but I'm kind of on this edge. You can see it lightens up right there. Right there, it's like an old growed up field, and those deer come in and out at night. I think they spend a lot of time out there. Back when I was a kid, that was a pasture, so I don't know, 25 years ago. I basically just walked where them deer came out. I basically just walked it away from the old field edge and got out here in the swamp just a little bit. I hadn't gone 150 yards, but there's definitely a temperature change. The cooler air is moving around in here a little bit. That heat off that field had that edge hot, so deer ain't gonna be out there now. They're gonna be in here. About to have to put some bug spray on. These skeeters are getting ripe. It's probably hard to see on camera, but you can see this ditch. I used to access up this ditch. It was a little more open than it is now, but especially when it's hunting season, generally it's standing water, so I can just slip through here about knee deep and then pop up and hunt. I was just coming up this ditch. I can still hear the deer walking, but I was just coming up this ditch. I literally just shut the camera off from showing you the ditch, and there was a deer laying right here. It just jumped up and went over there. It's going this way now, just walking. It didn't spook bad. I think it was a doe though. I just came up out of the ditch right there behind me. There's a finger of this swamp that almost sticks out into the field a little bit. It ain't but 50 yards difference in the other edge. But back when I used to hunt it, the big bucks would come and go right there, especially like 8 o'clock in the morning. You catch them coming back in. Hopefully there's some rubs or something up there. I'm just taking my time, trying not to spook too much. There's a walking trail that runs right through the middle of this place. The Florida Trail or whatever. So hopefully they should be a little used to human scent. out here during the daytime and shouldn't bother them too bad. That trail is still coming through this point. This was the major buck trail back 15 years ago. They're still using it. I like to get up here on the edge and see some rubs or something. They never really made sign out here on this point, but once we got to the where it kind of fell back off into the swamp, that's where the rubs used to be. That'll be a rub back from when I used to hunt it. The underbrush and stuff in here is some of these trees fell, and a lot more sunlight's hitting the ground, so these weeds and stuff have grown a lot more than they used to. But you can see back there where that tree's down. Let me zoom in. You see that tree that's down right there. The first day I ever hunted in here, I came in here scouting and found all the sign and stuff, but I sat on the ground like in this clump right here, I think, and it was like opening day of bow season, and I had to work that day, so I'd only hunted that evening, but I came in late, only had like an hour to hunt, and ran in here and sat down expecting the deer. I know they bed over here, or they bedded out here in the swamp and real thick junk, but I expected them to come right up this open area right here. It's kind of the only open in here, but instead of coming up it, they skirted it. So I watched 3 big bucks. We ended up killing him later. It was like 134 inches, and they were all around the same, but come by where that tree's down and stayed right where I couldn't shoot through that thick, never spooked or nothing. They stayed right there, right where I couldn't shoot. And but based on seeing them that day, I could have not rushed a shot, but I could have forced a shot or something, I'm sure. But instead of forcing it, they were relaxed. I just let them go. Waited till dark, backed out, and the next time, I didn't hunt the following day, but I think it was like the following, like 2 mornings later, something like that. Me and Darren came in here, and just based off the information where I saw him use this trail, kind of skirt the open, we moved over here another 30-40 yards and sat 80 yards apart, basically. And Darren killed the 134 coming back in. They had split up by then. He was by himself coming back in, but there's a few tracks coming through here, but it's not beat down, but it's gonna be just today's tracks because it rained last night. If y'all hear me talk about hunting transition lines or pinch points and stuff, it's not anything you can see on a map. I mean, I can look up at the tree canopy, and you're not gonna see this on a map. But you see this little opening? That's right where them bucks came through. I was on the other side of these thick cabbage, expecting them to come out this way, and they skirted it and it came right through here. So I came where I just showed you. The edge was over there where I sat and saw the bucks, and I saw the trail coming on down in here, but I couldn't tell if it was being used by deer or hogs because I couldn't see tracks. But I saw the tracks in the mud there. It's deer, so they're still using it, and it just starts getting right back. I'm down here on my knees. It starts going right back in this thick stuff, and I'm gonna pick my way through it. I probably won't try to find beds, but this is like a thick strip they bed in, way down low in a swamp. And there's a couple little open grass ponds out here I'm gonna slip out there and look at. I can see a little bit of standing water over there. I like them northern boys talking about thick. They wouldn't know thick if it slapped them in the face. I'm gonna keep crawling. There's a buck track. Pretty decent buck. 150 pounder anyway. Right there. They're definitely in there. If you want to know where a buck's at in the daylight, it's right here. That's why you can't kill them. There's a couple hog tracks on the trail. I don't know how good you can see that. There's a good buck track right there coming out. Hogs. But I'm down here in the thick now. I'm basically crawling around. I came through that thicket. I probably came half a mile. There's these little, once I get out here on the other side, on the river side of it, there's still a lot of thick, but there's these little, just little open areas, 10, 15 yards across. I've set up in these multiple times and actually shot. There's a hog right there. It's crazy, like y'all can see, I'm sure. I'm completely drenched. There's not a dry spot on me, I don't think. I stink so bad. And hogs have a great nose. And they're 16 feet from me. As soon as they got downwind from me, that was over. That, hopefully I had that on camera. The sun was about blinding me, but it's no difference in a deer. I had, my wind's blowing like this. The hogs came right through here and didn't smell me till they got right over here. So that's what I like to set up for. Just off wind, because that buck's gonna be wanting to use his nose most of the time. As long as my scent's missing him by a couple feet, that's all I need. That's why I just play the wind. It's no different than a buck. Get in these tight little areas where they're comfortable and strictly play the wind. Another one of these little openings out here. Just completely surrounded, where I saw the hogs was right there, but just completely surrounded in thick. This is the type of stuff I set up for when I'm hunting in thick bedding areas, because the deer naturally walk right through here. This would be a good trail camera place if I wanted to hang a camera. I mean, you can see the tracks. That's on top of the ring. Deer tracks. They're just coming right right through this little opening and milling around. That's a pretty good sized tree. You don't see a whole lot of them like that in this area anymore. I basically came out of the thick. There's where I just walked out of. There's an old road up here somewhere that 50 years ago was a road. Used to be able to see it. Bucks used to cross it and make rubs. It's hot and I'm getting tired, but I saw what I wanted to see coming through that bedding area. They're still using it. I'm gonna walk this transition line and see what the human sign looks like. That first edge I walked didn't have any. I haven't seen any cameras or anything, so maybe. These skeeters are rough. But I'm just gonna kind of run this transition line back out to the road. I marked this spot anyway because it looks like I just have the GoPro here, but the main bedding area I just walked through is right here, coming out of here. But this makes a point down there, and it's grown up a lot since I was in here. But that other thicker edge kind of makes a point here. And I guarantee you, this would be a lot easier to access without spooking anything, so I marked it. I might come in here and throw a sit at it one day if I ain't got nothing better to do. A lot of good shooting trees in here. I could throw a lock on any of these trees and just about cover this whole point. I imagine it would be a magnet if some of these oaks dropped up on the hill where it's easier for them to pick up the acorns. Show you here on my phone on X how you really can't see this. Like I can notice a little bit of tree canopy difference. It's not as bright a green up here where you have these, a lot of maples, a lot of thinner, lighter leaf trees, and then your big oaks are out on the edges. So I can kind of see it, but it's something the average guy is not going to see, and that's the spots I look for. Is I really have to come in here and look and make sure I am seeing what I think I'm seeing. All it would take was a couple big trees to blow down or something and change this whole area. I kind of feel like I would be able to do an observation sit here before season. I don't do that very often, but when I can, it's nice. You learn so much. But I think if I caught the right wind, sometime over this next month, I could catch a bachelor group in here. So if that's something y'all would be interested in seeing, drop it in the comments. And I might bump that priority up a little bit. Come in here and film some velvet bucks or something in the evening. I'm gonna start easing out. I've been staying here cooling down a little bit. Old, fat, and out of shape. This is the kind of stuff I'm looking for when I want a buck to feel safe and he's real close to thick, so he can just, if he catches danger, and he's gone off in the thick. But he's comfortable out here because there's enough of these weeds and all this stuff. So early season, even into December, sometimes this stuff is still fairly thick. A buck will feel comfortable anywhere out here, and then that opens up my shot opportunity a little bit to where I'm not tucked in for a 5-yard shot. So areas like this that I can find that have this cover but yet are still open enough for a shot, a better shot, then the odds go up a little bit as long as people aren't hunting it. So I could just come check this sometime November, December, if I haven't already been hunting it, which I probably won't, honestly. Or if I had an hour to kill or something, I may just run out here, and I could stand most of the time. Places like this, if I was rifle hunting, I wouldn't even sit. I would stand where I can see, and I'll see the horns coming up over the bushes, and just let him hit a hole. I'm still just running this transition line out. I just showed you the weeds and stuff here. But now I've hit, there's a real big oak tree there, big oak tree there, obviously big oak tree there, but there's under a lot of these big oaks, there's not as much trash on the ground, basically. So if these oaks start dropping, the deer a lot of times will prefer this clean ground for picking up acorns, right on the edge of where they can escape into the thick. So I'll mark this because it could be I think if I'm thinking right and nothing's changed, this will be a easy spot to access early season, because I think the main road I can park on is about, well, it's actually a closed road, but I can park and walk down a road about 500 yards over here. So I could probably run up this edge basically and hunt it multiple times, or hunt my way in. I almost figured this time of year, which I've been making quite a bit of noise and talking to these cameras, but I almost figured I would see a deer out here midday, even though it is brutal hot. But I jumped the one that I saw and heard another one slip off when I was basically crawling through the cabbage palms. But even I would treat this almost like a slough crossing if I found, in rut or something, if them bucks were cutting across here, then I could set up on the end of it, and have a 250 yard gap that I'm covering, trying to catch them coming back and forth across it. I don't typically see the big bucks walking. A lot of people think they travel through the open, walking in the open, but most of the time I just see them cutting across. I don't see them. The nighttime sign will be in the open, or the sign will be in the open, but it's nighttime. In the daylight, I'll catch them. Like there may be a scrape out here in the open, and instead of coming down the open like you would think a deer would naturally do, or like we would walk, they're not. They're cutting across it. Like cold mornings. Now this is one of the spots I really like in the morning. But cold mornings, I've seen deer lay in that grass in the sun on real cold mornings, because they're only 10 foot from the thick. If there's some kind of danger, there's one hop and they're gone, and they're back in safety. So I think they feel pretty comfortable. The biggest buck I ever saw, I think I talked about him a minute ago, but he was right over here on one of these edges, and I went in and sat on the ground and didn't see nothing big enough to shoot. Anyway, at 10:30, 11 o'clock, I decided to get over here in the bedding area. So I just taking my time creeping, and I was creeping up to the edge of one of these little openings, and I could see a little cypress tree out in the, or it might have been a bay tree, little bay tree out in the one of these kind of open grassy areas, and the top of it was just shaking. I thought, what in the world? And he started easing up there, and then I got to where I could see down in there, and it was 3 bucks. One of them was like 100 I guessed him about 160 inch. 12 point, typical 12 point, just a giant. And he started coming my way, so I was obviously on the ground. I mean, not, no kind of setup, just had my bow in my hand. So when he started coming up out of it, I was standing kind of in the cabbage palms. I went ahead and drew my bow, and he was the last deer. The other two deer were, and other two bucks were in front of him. So I drew, they come up here like 10 yards, and I'm not hid good. They knew something was a little bit off. So I ended up having to hold my bow back for like probably 3 minutes. And it was this was a good while ago, so it didn't have a let off like the bows have now. So I was getting tired, whatever. Well, the buck standing behind the big one standing behind a big oak tree. And he finally comes out from behind the oak tree. And there was a little, well, not a little vine, but a pretty big vine that basically went hanging out of the tree, went right down through his shoulders. And I was like, there's no way I'll hit that vine if I release now. So I tried to put it just right behind the shoulder and released. And sure enough, I hit the vine. Kicked the air down. They didn't really know what happened. They trotted off and were looking back. But I never saw that deer again. That was it. Don't know where he went. Had cameras all over the place. Never got another picture of him or nothing. I think that was one of those situations where he moved miles. Saw this little point in it. I've been walking that swamp as I came out here. This section's closed, so I can't hunt out here. But just looking at some sign. I made it back up this edge. I'm fixing to cross a ditch and be out on the road. So I like y'all, but I ain't showing you the road because a lot of y'all might know where it's at. And as much as I like you, I don't want the company. So if I don't see nothing else, that's a wrap on this video. I hope y'all enjoyed it. Oh, one thing I kind of meant to touch on a little bit and didn't is I'm not hanging any cameras in here today. But if I was, I would either hang cell cameras in those little open areas inside the bedding area that I showed you, and I would hang them. I mean, I might even hang them in February, but I would hang them, I mean, crazy early, and just leave them because I wouldn't want to check them. Or I would hang 4 or 5 cameras around on different points or entries and exits of that thick area I walk through, just to get a feel for what's in the area. But I don't know if I'll even hunt here this year. It's just I had time and it was on my mind, so I ran over here to check it out. Ordinarily I wouldn't be stomping through the bedding area in July, but it's I think I can get away with a lot more in here just because of the terrain and all the walking trails around it and everything like that. So anyway, I hope y'all got something out of the video. Now I'm gonna go get me some lunch and get me a shower and then work the rest of the day. So we'll catch you on the next one.